Well, good day. This is Mike Odell with Darren Malone, the funeral director, and we're going head to head. Mike Odell is going to take on Darren, the funeral director, on some of the questions. Let's see if we can get a couple of punches in here. And Darren, let's take off the gloves and let's have an interview, because I see that I won the boxing match. We're glad to have you on our team here.
Good to be here.
We're ready to go. Well, good day. My name is Mike Odell, and we're going to be doing an interview with Darren Malone, who is a funeral director in the Chicagoland area in Illinois. And again, Darren, it's a privilege to have you here. And again, it's a little different because the agents get to hear a different perspective when it comes to funeral planning. And so maybe let's share a little bit about what it's like being a funeral director for 30 years.
Yeah, I was born and raised in the funeral industry, and I was fortunate enough to help thousands and thousands of families with pre-planning and planning funerals and every stage of funeral planning. It's something that I have a passion for, taking care of people, and that's how I was brought up. And with many of the problems that we're having in today's funeral business, I was trying to find a better way for people to actually pre-fund funerals, and the Funeral Trust has been a wonderful thing that I found with you. But it's a great product that protects people, as we all have talked about, and that's why I'm here.
Well, I know when I get the phone call from one of our agents going to bring up a funeral director to my office, and I had my boxing gloves on, and you probably did too. Now, what I found amazing is that through your 30 years of being in the funeral home industry, that you found that there was things that were going on within the industry that made you really kind of come over to our side when it comes to the funeral trust being separate from the funeral home. And maybe you can explain why.
Yeah. You're right. When I first found Funeral Trust, I said, this is another gimmick, and these poor people are going to be taken advantage of again. I did my investigating on it, and I'm like, wow, it met all the criteria that I was looking for. Something that is Medicaid exempt and is safe for families and can control, the family controls how the money's spent. And that's when I came up to you, I had a lot of questions, but this product is just such a wonderful way for people to replan, because it just brings so much safety to their money. As you and I have already talked, there's millions and millions of dollars missing in prepaid funeral accounts.
Well, let's talk about the state of Illinois, where you do business as a funeral director. And I know most of the funeral home actually put it with a particular trust held by the state of Illinois, I believe.
Through the funeral, it's a funny thing. The funeral directors have their own trust. So when someone came in to prepay a funeral with me as a funeral director, I would put it in the Illinois Funeral Directors Trust Fund. And the funny thing is, there's always a trustee, as you know, of money, and the trustee happened to be the funeral directors. They were watching their own money.
Oh.
And yeah, what a nice thing.
Kind of like the Fox watching the...
one of the things that bothered me the most, and it just came out that there's supposed to be like $300 million in this trust. The state controller found only $200 million. That they have squandered away.
So there's $100 million missing?
$100 million missing. So that's when I looked for people for a product. That's when I found Irrevocable Funeral Trust as a better way to do it, because it has no control, but the funeral home controls none of it. Okay. It's an investment that people make in themselves, not with a funeral home. And the great thing about it is the people, and I talk about this all the time, they control their money. They control their spending. They control what funeral home they go to, whether it's in Illinois or they move to Florida. They can take it all with them. It grows. It has an interest growth into it, which funeral trusts normally did too. And then another thing, if there's any extra money in the trust, when the people die, it goes back to the family, because as I know as a funeral director, there's more expenses than just a funeral that families
Well, and I guess when you're talking with you, Darren, is that you said that if there's excess funds left over with a funeral plan at the funeral home, that excess funds many times don't go back to the family.
That's correct. The funeral homes in many states can legally keep any money in the trust that's left over. And the reason for that is when you sign up with a funeral home, they guarantee the cost. So they guarantee a loss if there is a loss, and they guarantee a gain if there is a gain. So the funeral home wins, and the families lose. And that's one of the reasons I've turned to this this product and endorse it so highly because it's just such a better way to do it. And the only time you need to go pay a funeral home is, I always say, when they're bringing you in horizontally, because they don't need your money before then.
Right.
But the important thing is that families have that money available to them immediately to help pay those expenses.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about the funeral trust that we're marketing today, using the insurance companies as the trustee, is that first off, the money's regulated.
Yes.
It's safe, and there's no funny playing with the money as funeral directors have access to
That's
the
right. The insurance
funds.
companies come under so much more scrutiny than just what we would call a master trust, where they're audited every year. They make sure their investments are doing good. And then even if an insurance company becomes insolvent, there's ways that families would get most of their principal back. But we use such strong companies, it's not a concern of mine. That's one of the other important things that when I found you, I said, well, where's he putting the money? Because I didn't want the same thing happening to my clients if I put money away for them, that it just disappears. And the companies you work with, that strong performance, yearly performance is really important.
And we feel that's important. And each year the money in these life insurance policies, the death benefit grows each year.
Yeah.
And so we keep pace, or we try to keep pace with inflation.
Right.
And I think with the funeral trust too, it's portable to any funeral home the family might choose later on. And maybe you can explain a little bit in the funeral home industry, Darren, where many folks think they have a guaranteed funeral, but then a new owner comes in, buys the funeral home, and what happens to those guaranteed contracts?
The new owners do not have to guarantee the funeral that the prior owner did. So what happens is people will go into the funeral home thinking everything's guaranteed, find out there's a new owner, and find out that they've lost that guarantee that was given to them from the other funeral director, and they'll pay full price. So as prices go up 3, 4, 5% a year in funeral costs, and their trust may only grow at 1.5%, even lower at some funeral homes, they're going to have to make up the shortages.